Hi everyone and welcome to Stitch and Thread. My name is Anna. I'm coming to you from the UK, and on this channel we are mostly talking about knitting. Today is a regular installment of my knitting podcast where I share with you what I've been up to in the last months. And today we have two finished projects. We have quite a few works in progress to discuss as well, and some acquisitions and plants, more like summer related plants at the very end. So it's quite a lot to take in, so let's get in straight away. And let's start with the first finished object, which I'm currently wearing, and this is my Viva Cardigan by Lily Kate France. I've just finished this cardigan. This is a test knit for her. A Viva Cardigan is a cardigan with a saddle shoulder construction where you actually need first two saddles and then you pick up stitches on both sides and then shape the yoke, and at some point you just need back and forth as you do with cardigans. After you do the whole body, you pick up then for the neckline. That was actually a new technique to me when you pick up here, because it's black. I'm not sure I can show you very well, but you pick up with using two sets of needles. It was very interesting. As I said, I've never done it, but it gives a very nice edge. I think it's been quite dark yarn, you can't see it very well, but it's really, really nice. And one more feature which I haven't done before was knitting this lovely pockets, as you can see right here. I think being a test knit, these kind of flare up a little bit for myself, and I noticed quite a few had the same issue, so there's a chance that this will be adjusted in the final pattern. However, as with Lily Kate France before, I've knitted her pattern before, she is very meticulous the way she explains things in writing, and I feel if I can understand very well even tricky bits, I think that's a really good sign for a pattern. There are quite a few tricky bits for this cardigan. Hopefully I will release at some point a vlog about it, because I've tried to take videos as I was knitting along. I could definitely say if this is your first ever cardigan, you probably would like to knit something else. It does have quite a few details that I think you need to have some experience. Of course, if you're in love, just go for it. But there were quite a few tricky bits here, including the double knit button band here. So as you can see, saddle shoulder construction, a garment. It's quite a boxy fit. So for me personally, I kind of was thinking like it looks okay, but maybe because I'm quite short, I feel it's a bit too boxy on me. Maybe like the neckline is a bit too big. I'm not sure at the moment. I'm still in this process to find out. It looks like on the picture, I guess, I was after a casual cardigan which I can put on anytime, but I feel the fit on me personally could have been a bit better. Maybe I should have split for sleeves, for example, a bit earlier. I feel the sleeve depth is quite big and I'm quite a short person, so it might be just me. As I say, pattern written really, really well. So if this kind of boxy style is your thing, I think you'll love it. Very nice details as usually for Lily Kate. What else I should say? I should talk about the yarn. So the yarn that Lily Kate used is Loch Lomond from BC Garn, and I always wanted to work with this yarn myself, which is why I applied for test knit. It gave me an excuse to work with this yarn and to try it on. So Loch Lomond BC Garn, it's 100% wool yarn, organic wool it says here, and you have 150 meters in 50 grams, and the suggested needle size is 4 to 5 millimeter needles. As you can see, it has a bit of like a tweed effect here, but it's very subtle, which is something I quite like. So I've knitted the cardigan on 3.75 millimeter needles, so slightly lower than the recommended, and this was the recommended size for the cardigan as well. And I think the reason is because it's a cardigan, it's quite a structured one, you do need kind of to bring the wool a bit together, and I think that was a really good call by Lily Kate. It is a very good gauge for this specific cardigan in my opinion. So no problems here. One thing which again maybe will be adjusted in the pattern when it's going to be released, I think I'll test knit France until 16th of April. So hopefully maybe Lily Kate will release the pattern either straight or soon after that, because I've knitted the size 1 for myself, and I needed, according to pattern, to get 400 grams of this specific yarn, and I still have 120 grams left. It could be because obviously I'm quite short, and maybe Lily thought of like kind of an average human being, which could be taller, but just letting you know that there is quite a lot of yarn it says that you need in the pattern, which obviously I don't need. I still have 120 grams and I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with it. Probably have enough for a hat. Will it be good for a hat? Possibly. Not that I really want to have, like, I feel like for hats, I have like a black coat, I have kind of charcoal coat as well, a woolen coat, and I feel like for garments, and I feel for accessories, I would like something bright, and actually you will see later what I mean, what I have in mind. So this sort of color for an accessory, I'm not sure. At least at the moment, I'm not in the mood for it. So we'll think later what I can do, because it's still a decent amount, 120 grams. So I need to do something with that. I think separately would like to talk about the buttons. You can see I have this lovely grayish, kind of dark charcoalish color, and just a couple of weeks ago I went to London and spent probably an hour just in a section with buttons. The shop was called Loch, I believe, on Poland Street in London. I've never been there until then, and it's quite a big store. They have a lot of fabrics, a lot of yarn as well, which I want to see as well there, but they didn't have any in stock, even though the online shop showed me that they have some in stock, but they didn't. So in the end, I actually ordered in store. So I haven't received yarn yet, but it was a quite specific color, and I was able to see the sample in the store, the color which I needed to match, and yes, I really liked it. Okay, going back to the buttons. As I said, I spent probably an hour looking for buttons for my different cardigans I'm planning to knit, so it was a very good experience. They have lots of buttons there, so if you're in London, I would most definitely recommend you to have a look. Lots of buttons. I also found quite difficult to shop for buttons. Not that I need to do it very often, but the struggle was real, to be honest. So I'm quite glad that once I put these buttons on, they look like I wanted them to look. So yeah, really happy with this decision. As for the cardigan, I think that's it for now. As I say, I'm not yet sure if this is 100% me in terms of the fit, but it's kind of nothing to do with the pattern itself. I've seen exactly how it looks. It's just, I think, maybe me being quite short, possibly need to think a bit more about the fit, and possibly the boxy style fit is maybe not for me. Yeah, but otherwise, the yarn is amazing, quite dry when you knit with, but softens up. It is a woolen spun yarn, so I really like the drape. As you can see, the drape is really nice. So overall, I'm quite happy I've tried the yarn. I'm quite happy I've knitted the pattern. I will see how I feel in the next couple of months about this garment, and we'll go from there, I guess. And now we're moving on to knitted socks, and I have these lovely socks for you to see. Aren't they gorgeous? Look at that, love them. So I call them Gro Socks. There is a pattern called Gro Socks by Fiber Tales, and I really was inspired by that pattern. But the thing is, a couple of years ago I've knitted Field Mittens by Camilla Bard, and I had exactly the same motif there, and I didn't really feel like I would like to pay for pattern, so I just took the same motif from that pattern and kind of went from there myself. So as you can see, it's a 2x2 rib, this lovely motif. And then what I really like is that in another pattern, I had this kind of garter stitch heel flap. I really like it. It really makes it easier to pick up stitches as well, and I feel it just gives a really nice touch. And yeah, I've knitted these on 2mm needles because this is 100% wool yarn, and I'm on a mission to try and see what kind of wool blend works for me in terms of natural sock. And this was one of the yarns that's recommended by a viewer. I believe it's Norwegian wool. I hope I'm not mistaken, that would be funny. So this is Rauma Garn 2 tråds Gammelserie. Okay, I'm really sorry if I butchered that, but it's in color terracotta. Yes, it says 100% Norwegian wool. It has 160 meters in 50 grams. So this is not fingering, this is probably close to sports weight yarn. But what I've learned recently, that in order to have 100% wool socks work for you without falling apart in a month or so, is that you need to knit them very tight it is a bit hard on your hands, I wouldn't lie, because this yarn is also a bit rustic, so I do need to take breaks when I knit with this yarn, and the feel is very woolly. At the moment, I do not know how they will wear, but you can see the stitch definition is really good. Very small stitches. This is the smallest I guess I got in tea. Also with 100% wool, my understanding is that you need to knit them slightly longer to allow for shrinkage and slight felting, so that should prevent them from developing holes too soon. So we'll see. I'm quite happy I've knitted them. I will continue exploring 100% natural fibers or yarns, I guess, for socks, and I have another one later on in here for you to have a look. So really cute. They fit me quite nicely as well, which is great. So yeah, my socks, another pair. Now let's move towards the project that is quickly becoming my long-term whip, and I'm talking about Agnete Cardigan by PetiteKnit, as right here. Just if you're new here, just quickly to say, this is an all-over brioche cardigan with double knit a button band, which you knit at the same time, which is something I found really useful. In comparison with this cardigan, I had to pick up stitches for both button bands. Here you do it at the same time, and this is my preferred way, that's for sure. But I guess not always you can do it, but you can do it in this cardigan. So I believe last time I talked to you about this cardigan, I was just either finished or was finishing the hem, and I was talking to you how I didn't really like the eyelets which are created when you increase stitches for the ribbing, and I was able to modify and just make them on the inside of the cardigan. And since then I've knitted yet another sleeve, and as I say, like, I feel I'm knitting this cardigan, but I just seem to be never finishing. It takes forever. I'm knitting it on 3mm needles as well, which doesn't help, and with brioche every row is you knit it twice, so it does take forever. I'm currently on the last sleeve, if you can see right here. Beautiful, but I've just picked up and started knitting it, so it will probably take another month, I'm afraid. But one thing I would like to talk to you is, again, ribbing. When I changed the ribbing on the body with the whole eyelet situation, I didn't realize that I would have to do the same for the sleeves. And the problem is, while for the body you knit flat and you can just adjust, you know, and change the row to the other side, you can't do the same for the sleeves because you knit in the round. So there was not a question of should I be able to remove the eyelets here. And it took me some time to actually figure out how to do it. So what I did in the end, I will actually take some notes and put them on the Ravelry as well, but just to give a quick recap. So first of all, on the last brioche row, I decided to go down from 3mm to 225mm needles, so very small needles, and I resolved all my brioche stitches. It basically became a stockinette by that point, so only one row. And then on the following row, I did the all increases. So depending where I was, it would be either make one purl or make one knit, I think. Yes, because it depends, because this is when I would start ribbing. So just creating a fabric for ribbing, and I continued like this on 225mm needles all the way till the end. And that's how my ribbing looks like. I think it's okay. I don't know if it would be better with, you know, with eyelets or not. I just prefer the look without them personally. I think it's okay. Obviously, I think in the pattern you continue knitting with 3mm needles for your ribbing, and I used 225, so much smaller. But I think I generally, for variability, my preference is to have kind of more tight ribbing at my calves. So I'm happy with that, and yeah, happy I was able to solve the issue of eyelets. As I said, there are different ways you can do it, but this way I felt it was the least noticeable way. So that's it. So I'm going to do the same for the other sleeve, and hopefully I will finish my cardigan in a month or so, because it's been about 4 months now, almost 4 months I feel. So I need to get going with this cardigan. It's probably going to be too late to wear it, but anyway, I'll have a lovely cardigan for autumn. Now let's move on to not such great news. If you've been here before, you know I was knitting my MATCHA jumper by PetiteKnit, and I don't have it anymore. And the reason is that I continued knitting. I was at the point where you need to split 4 sleeves actually. When I realized I made a rookie mistake, which is a bit sad. So this is at that point before splitting for sleeves when I felt I need to try it on, right? To make sure that my yoke is the right depth and so forth. So I put it on and I realized suddenly that my cast on edge, which I use just a regular cast on as specified in a pattern, it's just too tight. And in the pattern, the designer specifies that you shouldn't do this cast on tight. But obviously, I do know that my regular cast on is tight, but I thought that me just trying not to do it tight would be good enough, but it wasn't. I felt when I tried on, it's quite tight, and when I tried to start the neckline as well, it just wasn't working at all. So sadly, I had to frog the whole thing. Really, it kind of, I wouldn't say it broke my heart, but I was so excited about this pattern ever since it came out. So it was quite a devastating time, I must admit. I'm not sure if I have heart to try and start it for the third time. Maybe I will. But at the time, I felt I really need to have a break and I really needed to cheer myself up. So I allowed myself to cast on a project which wasn't even on my to-do list for spring. Let me show you. So I started another Oslo hat, and now you'll see why I did that. Look at this color. Look at this. Absolutely stunning. So I had in my stash for a while a beautiful yarn by Zakami. I think its name is Healing Symphony. I think this is kind of the regular yarn. You can order it on the website, and it's stunning, kind of pinkish. Let me just show you. This is the color. It's a bit of pink red, I would say, like strawberry red maybe. Absolutely stunning color. And I was trying to find a good yarn kind of to have it with. This is fingering weight yarn. And because I wanted a hat, I didn't really want to have a mohair, even though, talking about my Agnete Cardigan, let me show you. I felt that a mohair I use for my Agnete Cardigan, it's right here, would work really, really well. It is also a red, but also has a pink hue to it, which is something I prefer. So I thought this would be gorgeous, but I didn't really want mohair on my head, honestly. Well, I'm not that sensitive, and Isager mohair is a great mohair, very, very soft. My neckline, my head, they're quite sensitive overall. So I thought long and hard and thought that I can reuse the same combination or similar combination that I used for my first Oslo hat. And I used the Cardiff Cashmere Classic combined with Cardiff Cashmere Prime. They kind of brushed cashmere. And I bought one ball, treated myself, and bought one ball of this Cardiff Cashmere Prime. As you can see, it's literally like mohair. It's really kind of brushed and has the same lace width meterage. I don't have, I think, the label, but you can look it up. It's also like 25 grams and around 300 meters, but don't quote me on that. And unfortunately, even though they had like 4 different colors of red, this was probably the closest, but it is a bit of light, but it's orange hue rather than pink. And you can see the difference here. I'm still quite happy with the result. I think this gives a lovely dimension, and the softness is unbelievable. Because the Zakami yarn is 100% non-superwash merino, and I combine it with one strand of this cashmere. It's just dreamy. And you can see with these colors, yes, I needed to cheer myself up, and I did just that. So this is the beginning of my Oslo hat. You actually need a big tube, about 20 centimeters long, and then you need the beginning and the end together. So I've just, as you can see, this is like a double knit now, a tube for myself, and I'll continue knitting it, and most definitely next podcast it will be done, even though I probably will not need the hat by then. But it's really exciting project for me. I just really needed it. So I'm really, really happy with that decision. Now, I have another project which didn't quite go according to plan. So let's talk about it, because it kind of taught me another lesson. Just a few weeks ago, with Lomond yarn on the same website, I decided to purchase a ball of this onion, organic wool and nettles yarn. It is also 100% natural fibers, suitable for sock knitting, which is something I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find the suitable yarn for myself to knit socks with natural fibers. I didn't realize until that moment that apparently nettles is not something unique or new. People used to wear garments made out of nettles prior to cotton making its way. So this is actually very traditional, I guess, fiber. It is very, very interesting to me. I just didn't really realize that. Here you have 30% nettles, and you do feel it. It doesn't have a lot of give, this yarn. So I have a beautiful pattern by Yuka called Hanano socks, and I kind of had in mind this yarn for that pattern, and I started knitting it. If I still have pictures, I actually put them on the screen. It is beautiful pattern, as most Yuka patterns, and as I was knitting, I felt that my fingers hurt. It was very difficult to knit. There were a few kind of small cables there, here and there, and I honestly felt that this is hard, especially the cuff. It was quite a specific cuff for the sock, and even after the cuff I was continuing knitting, and I was like, I'm not sure I can finish one sock, let alone two, in this pattern. It's just too harsh. And I think I made the right decision, and I just gave up. I just realized that this yarn is not suitable for this pattern. I find it very hard to do sometimes, to just deviate from what I originally planned, but I believe it was the right decision. So I stopped, I frogged it, and thought long and hard what sort of pattern would be suitable for this yarn, which doesn't have so much bounce and elasticity, with 30% nettles in it. And I decided to knit a pattern which I've knitted before. It's called Lakolk by Lotte Longren. Sorry if I'm butchering someone's name. But this pattern is in 52 weeks of socks. I haven't made that far with my first sock this time round, but still, again, this yarn really in this color brings me a lot of joy. Really springy yarn, and it's a much simpler pattern. You only have here a twisted knit and like knits and purl stitches, and that's it, but it still looks very interesting in my opinion. So I'm very happy with my decision not to persevere. Sometimes you have to give up, you know, sometimes you have to understand that maybe you can finish the pattern, but if it's not enjoyable, it's just not worth it. So anyway, I'm really happy. This is my, I guess, second pair of socks this year with natural fibers, and that's really nice. So I'll continue knitting on this pair. Now let's move towards my plans and acquisitions for this podcast, and let me talk about another very, very interesting yarn. So again, do I have a label? Yes, I do. So I have this yarn Arctic Pearl, and its composition is 100% lyocell, which is sea cell. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 81% seaweed and 19% eucalyptus. So very, very interesting fiber. It is done as a chinet kind of yarn, so very, very beautiful. This specific color is color 16. Can't remember what was the real name. And you have here, what do you have? 245 meters in 50 grams. So if you've knitted with a knitting profile of pure silk, they should be very, very similar. However, when you start knitting with it, and I've just tried it yesterday evening, and which is why I'm just still full revelation about this yarn. It feels so different. Nothing like pure silk. If you've ever knitted with knitting foil of pure silk and you think that that yarn is too silky or too smooth, this is on a different level. I think I've knitted just like one row on my usual metal needles. I usually use metal needles when I realized not a chance. So I had to find wooden needles and started knitting with it. So the suggested size for this yarn, according to Pasquale, is 3.5 to 4.5. No, like 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 millimeter needles. I've tried to use 3.25 millimeter needles, and in my opinion, it's still very, very gapey. I haven't washed this swatch at all, so I don't know how it will behave after washing. But quick Googling told me that this yarn is more likely to grow rather than to shrink. So yeah, I think judging by what I've got, and I have an average kind of gauge myself, so I think I would go maybe not to even 3 millimeter needles, but 275. My original plan is to knit Tea by Ozetta with this yarn, but again, as I say, I don't really want it to be that gapey. It feels like a really thin yarn and very smooth. Even with wooden needles, I feel it just slides. You almost feel like you might want to have another strand of something that would kind of give a bit of grip to it. So yes, I've knitted with knitting foil of pure silk. I've knitted with some yarns which were slippery, but I've never knitted on something this slippery. So again, if you're a new knitter, you might want to either pass on this or just hold it with something else. It just really tries to escape. I have to really concentrate. Having said that, I really like the softness of this yarn, so I can imagine it feels really even cold to touch. So I can imagine it's gonna be really soft and nice to wear, but we'll see if we can pull off the actual knitting process. So this is in my plans. As I said, I will try probably to knit some more on 3.25 and then change to 275 and have very big swatch and see exactly how it behaves with the washing. You can put this yarn in the washing machine. So what I'm probably going to do, I'm probably not even going to just do my hand wash, which I usually do, but put it in the washing machine and see what comes out. It's really exciting actually to try to tame yarn. That's how I feel at the moment. A very unusual feel to this yarn. So if you would like to knit with this yarn, most definitely use blunt needles, because with this chain knit construction, I think people might just poke yarn too much. I think that would be really good. Okay, moving on to my acquisitions. So for the first time ever, we had a new yarn festival nearby where I live, and I thought, you know, I've been to yarn festivals before and my kids know about it, but I've never really taken them there. So I decided, okay, I'll take my daughter with me. So that's exactly what I did, and I ended up with lots of things that she wanted me to buy. So let me show you quickly. First of all, there's a gorgeous skein from the little grey girl, the hand dyer right here in the UK. This is high twist sock yarn, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. So beautiful sock yarn. I'm excited to try it. This is my daughter who really wanted it. And she made me buy one more thing, which is self-striping yarn, which I wasn't opposed to much because I really enjoyed last time working with self-striping yarn. This is from Madrigal Yarns. I think this is more like autumnal color, so I might hold on to it until autumn. I need a great pair of self-striping socks as well. And we got another small skein because we couldn't resist. Beautiful teal color. I assume it's the same, actually not sure, but beautiful teal color, just 20 gram skein. Just really gorgeous, love it. Yes, I think March was a very expensive month because I've also decided to finally bite the bullet and try yarn on corn, something I've thought and heard a lot of but never really tried on. So that was quite an interesting experience. I ordered a corn, actually 2 corns, from a shop in Italy. So my understanding is all these high-end producers of high-end like fabrics, they need to have the fabrics where they produce it like on the go, and it means that fabrics sometimes they don't know exactly how much they need, so they have some extra yarn available. So I've got this 100% cashmere from Loro Piana. So this is beautiful melange color. I probably will have to hold it, I don't know, triple, whatever. It's only, I believe, 300. It doesn't actually say here, but I'll probably need to hold it, obviously, not even single. It's a very thin yarn, but excited to try. And I couldn't resist one more, and you'll see why. Look at that. It's a beautiful emerald color. Yeah. So a big yarn haul this time, which brings me to another question that I feel like I gotta get too excited about yarn, and I'm again officially putting myself on a yarn ban starting on 1st of April for at least 6 months. I do have enough yarn, and I know that. Like last time, I have actually a video about it. I will allow myself to buy extra yarn if I need to finish a project, and some extra like a strand if I need to, but I don't expect to have a need to do that. But I will have one exception. Because in the next 6 months is my birthday, I would like to allow myself to buy one quantity of something, should I be desperate, but again, might not happen, so that's okay. So that's my plan. March was a really expensive month. I still have something which I ordered which didn't come yet, so we'll see how that goes. And the one last thing I want to say is thank you for the love you gave to my last video about knitting cardigans. I am planning to knit a lot more cardigans this year in 2026, I know that, and I thought that sometimes we find it a bit difficult to knit cardigans because they're a little bit more difficult. They have a lot of finishing details, and if you also need a bit of help to knit a cardigan or motivation to knit one, if there are enough people who want it, we can just create a small group on Instagram and share the details and cardigans that we're knitting. I thought maybe it would be a good idea. Let me know what you think, and maybe I create a group and we can knit cardigans the whole year round and kind of motivate each other on this journey. That's it, I think, for me from now for today. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm wishing you to have a great day and enjoy the projects that you're making. Happy knitting!